All right, let's dive in. We're about to take a whirlwind tour through 4 billion years of history. We're going to start with the very first spark of life and go all the way up to the incredible complexity sitting right inside your skull. And look, this isn't just some dry science lesson, right? This is our story, the story of evolution.
So yeah, it really all boils down to one massive question. How did we get here? Seriously, how did a barren rock spinning through space give rise to, well, everything we see around us, including ourselves? The answer to that one question is what this whole explainer is all about.
To even begin to answer that, we've got to go back. I mean, way, way back. We need to set the stage on a volatile, primordial Earth, a world that, honestly, you wouldn't even recognize.
Now, to really get your head around this, you have to zoom out, like way out, to a cosmic scale. The universe itself kicks off about 20 billion years ago. Our planet? It doesn't even show up for another 15 billion years. But then, and this is the wild part, in what's just a blink of an eye in cosmic terms, only 500 million years after the Earth formed, the first signs of life appear. That's our first clue. Life got started, like, shockingly fast.
But you gotta understand, this early Earth, it was no paradise. I mean, try to picture it. A world with no real atmosphere, getting blasted by radiation, and the surface is just this chaotic soup of volcanic gases, methane, ammonia, carbon dioxide. It was hot, it was violent, and it was totally, seemingly lifeless. So you look at this hostile, crazy environment, and it leads scientists to this really crucial question. Could the fundamental building blocks of life, the stuff that actually makes us up, have formed in these brutal conditions? And that one question, it kicked off a legendary experiment.
So back in 1953, a scientist named Stanley Miller decides to basically build a mini primordial world in a bottle. He seals all those early Earth gases in a flask, cranks up the heat, and then starts zapping it with electric sparks to act like lightning. And what happened next? Absolutely astonishing. From this chaotic chemical mess, amino acids, the literal building blocks of all protein, started to form all on their own. This was huge. For the first time, we had a real, testable idea for how life could come from non-life.
Okay, so life gets a foothold. But now what? How in the world do we piece together the story of the next few billion years? Well, the answer isn't in a lab. It's written in the Earth itself. We just have to learn how to read the clues left behind in stone and bone.
Our two main clues are fossils, these incredible snapshots from the past preserved in rock, and this other thing called comparative anatomy. That's where we look at the similarities and differences in the bodies of animals that are alive today. And one of the coolest, most powerful ideas here is something called homology. This is when you find the same basic structural blueprint being used for totally different jobs. When you see that, it's a massive clue that the organisms share a common ancestor. This whole process, we call it divergent evolution. And this is such a fantastic example of that. Just think about it for a second. A whale's flipper for swimming, a bat's wing for flying, a cheetah's leg for running, and your own arm for grabbing things. They all do completely different stuff, but if you actually look at the bones inside, you find the exact same pattern. One upper bone, two lower bones, and then wrist and finger bones. It's literally the same toolkit, just tweaked and modified for totally different jobs. It's a dead giveaway of a shared ancestor. But of course, nature's got more than one trick up its sleeve. There's also analogy. And this is basically the polar opposite. It's when completely different structures evolve to do the same job because different creatures are facing similar problems. We call this one convergent evolution.
So let's take the problem of flight, for instance. A butterfly's wing is a thin membrane. A bird's wing is bones and feathers. Totally different materials, totally different evolutionary paths, but they both landed on the exact same solution: wings for flying. It's like nature solving the same puzzle twice, from two different starting points. You see the same thing with the eye of an octopus and the eye of a human. They look incredibly similar, but they evolved completely independently.
So, we've got all this evidence that life changed. Cool, but how? What's the actual engine that's driving all this incredible transformation from one species into another? Well, that brings us to the theories that explain how it all works.
Well, the master mechanic who figured out that engine was, of course, Charles Darwin. And his big idea, natural selection, is actually beautifully simple. Basically, in any group of animals, there's a little bit of variation. Some individuals just happen to have traits that give them a tiny edge, a better shot at surviving and having babies. Over huge amounts of time, nature kind of selects for these winning traits, and the whole species slowly starts to change. But, science never just stops. Darwin saw evolution as this very slow, gradual process. But later on, a scientist named Hugo de Vries added a new layer to the story. He suggested that sometimes evolution can take these big, sudden leaps forward, all thanks to large, random mutations. And today, we pretty much know they were both right. Evolution is this long story of slow, steady change, but it's punctuated by these moments of really rapid, dramatic transformation.
Okay, so theory is one thing. But where can we actually see this engine of evolution working in the real world? Let's check out a couple of classic case studies that really put these ideas to the test.
Yes, the classic example, Darwin's finches out in the Galapagos. So the story goes, one original species of finch makes its way to the islands. Over time, its descendants radiated out into all these different forms. Their beaks changed shape to take advantage of different foods, some for cracking seeds, some for eating insects, others for cactus flowers, and eventually they became completely new species.
And you can see this same idea playing out on a continental scale in Australia. One single type of ancestral marsupial, the kind with a pouch, got there and just radiated into this incredible variety of animals, filling every possible role, like the Tasmanian wolf. And here's the really mind-blowing part. On all the other continents, regular placental mammals evolved completely separately to fill the exact same jobs. So you get a placental wolf and a marsupial wolf. This is adaptive radiation and convergent evolution happening at the exact same time. It's amazing.
So all of this deep, branching history, all these different paths life took, eventually they lead to one very specific branch, our branch. Let's bring the story home and zoom in on the incredible journey of our own species.
Yeah, our family tree is seriously rich and complex. It all starts with ape-like ancestors like Dryopithecus about 15 million years ago. Then, we start seeing these huge milestones, the Australopithecines using stone weapons, Homo erectus eating meat, the incredibly complex Neanderthals who actually buried their dead, and then finally, us, Homo sapiens, showing up and developing things like art and agriculture which changed the entire planet. But maybe the most incredible part of our story, the thing that really sets us apart, is the explosive growth of our brain. Let's just track this for a second. With an early ancestor, Homo habilis, we're starting out right here, at around 700 cubic centimeters of brain capacity.
Flash forward a bit to Homo erectus, and boom, we see a big jump up to 900 cubic centimeters. That extra brain power probably fueled all sorts of new, complex behaviors.
And then, you get to the climax of this trend. With the Neanderthals, the brain capacity hits an amazing 1,400 cubic centimeters, which is basically where we are today. In just a few million years, the organ that defines who we are had more than doubled in size. It's the most rapid and important transformation in our entire evolutionary story.
And that brings us to, well, us. I mean, think about it. From a chemical soup on a lifeless rock, through billions of years of trial and error, of divergence and convergence, all pushed forward by the relentless engine of natural selection, we finally get here. It's an absolutely epic story, and it leaves us with just one final, massive question. What's the next chapter going to look like?